Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast. This is your host, Brian, a.k.a. El Nino, and today I am joined with Nicolette Watson from Your Best Ghoul podcast.
Hey.
Nicolette, thank you so much for being on the show with us. How is everything going on with you down? And you're right outside of Dallas, Texas, correct?
That is correct. Right outside of Dallas, the suburbiest of suburbs. Dallas gives me, street cred. And people go, oh, Dallas. I know Deep. I live in East Dallas. And I say, no, north, farther north. And they're like, oh, like a neighborhood. Yeah, not as cool. But good.
Hey, you're still there and you can still rep, and that's awesome. So, before we get into it, just for fans watching here we're streaming this right now on Facebook Live, and this will air more than likely next week as far as our audio stream.
Love it.
Tell us a little bit more about your best ghoul, the premise, like why you decided to start doing this, and, we'll just kind of go from there.
Great. So Your Best Ghoul podcast is, just kind of me flapping my gums about all things that to me are, creepy and interesting. When I've been talking about the idea with friends, they were like, do true crime. You got to do true crime. Everyone's doing true crime. And I'm like, right. Everyone's doing true crime and they're doing it much better than I ever could. So, maybe true crime. Then it was ghosts. Then it was scary movies. Then it was horror stuff. And so I said, you know what? I'm bad at commitment. I can't niche down. So it's going to be, all things creepy that I enjoy, which at first I thought maybe, not a good move, but I'm liking that so far because it gives me a lot of, variety and options to, choose from, kind of like I think what you do, you've got a nice, wide net. You can kind of pick what you're into that week and roll with it.
The Super Bowl is right around the corner. If you are looking to place a bet on any of the sports going on, betonline.ag is the best and only place to lock it in. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any place online. And there is always the online casino as well. It never closes. So head to betonline.ag today and take full advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Again, that's betonline.ag and sign up today. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
Right. No, that's awesome. And it was funny too, because as I was listening, I've heard the term, cryptid, and for some unknown reason, I thought it had to do with currency, and I didn't know it had to do with because I was like, obviously supernatural, UFOs, I get all that, and then when you're mentioning cryptid, I'm like,
right,
why am I not getting this? So then I looked it up, and it was, pretty much monsters or just things that have never really, there's no actual proof of that. So I thought that was a very cool element for you to bring into the show. And with that being said, like, are there any, cryptid animal types that like are particular kind of favorites that you're most interested in? And we saw that you were a guest on the Bigfoot podcast.
Yes.
I don't remember the name. But,
Bigfoot Society with Jeremiah Byron.
Yes. So, just talk a little bit about that and just kind of like how you got interested in all this.
Well, I have to say, I only chuckled because when you said the crypto thing, that happens all the time. My DMs on Instagram are full of guys trying to get me into their crypto stuff. And I'm like, no, Bigfoot. Bigfoot, not money.
Right. Loch Ness Monster, not money.
Yes, exactly. And they're like, goodbye, weirdo. Whoop, right back out of my DMs. So yes, that's a common one. But I got my interest in cryptids from my dad. So my dad was a nuclear engineer, super rational, bright guy, but he liked Halloween, he liked horror movies. And when I was a kid, my parents were divorced. So he would do this like a lot of divorced kids, you ping pong back and forth between the parents.
Right.
And my dad would sometimes fly back and forth with me. And when we'd be on the flights, I would be like, Daddy, tell me a story. And he would tell me, I realized now as an adult, he was telling me the plots of horror stories, like American Werewolf in Paris, American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
So like, imagine you're on a flight and there's this like nerdy looking guy and his kid, and he's like, and then the decomposing friend showed up to talk to the werewolf. And I'm like, yeah, I love it. Can I have some more pretzels and ginger ale? So that's how it started, was, werewolf interest.
Gotcha.
That's how this started. Yeah. There's a whole cryptid community too. So they, it's not a big community. So once I put out like one cryptid-esque episode, like we all found each other, pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Us weirdos seem to find each other rather quickly and
very quickly. The internet really helps.
Yes, it does. Because what I loved about it, I was listening to your first episode and just your story on how just kind of growing up and going from Texas to Pennsylvania and being the new kid, and that, these topics were
right.
For the most part, not so much taboo, but they kind of were, especially if you were very interested in it. And, growing up, to me, I'm one of the few, I'm 40. So I actually grew up to where if you had to look up anything, you had to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica. This is pre-Google days.
Pre-Google.
So, there wasn't a lot of information on it. And if you were interested in it, you were considered, weird or freak or whatever. But now that we're older, I love the fact that, you said that on your first episode, that it is more commonplace. We have everything from shows like Ghost Hunters to River Monsters to, finding Yeti and things like that. Yep. So now we have a platform to where all of us that are into all these interesting things can actually find and meet each other.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's awesome. I had the hardest time, making friends anyways, probably just because I was like, kind of a weird introverted kid. But yeah, then you add into the mix that you have some strange, predilections and hobbies, and no one's trying to be friends with the werewolf girl. Like no one's trying to be friends with like that girl. And I just get a kick out of even the scary stories to tell in the dark being a movie now. And these young kids are so into it. I was like scared to show that book to anybody.
Right.
Remember how creepy that was?
Right. Real creepy. I don't know if you have a favorite. One of my favorite scary stories to tell in the dark stories was the one where it was the kid that woke up and thought he was late to church, and he ran through like the cemetery and all that and got to the church.
Yeah.
But apparently he got there too early, and it was all like the zombies, like the dead people were in church. So, and there's actually a pretty good documentary on that. I think it's on Amazon right now, and it's on
Amazon. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So check it out. I started watching it. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but it was a really good documentary on scary stories telling the dark and just how far ahead it was. But at the same time, just like you said, back then, I mean, there's it's part of the documentary too, to where you could see like schools and parents and teachers that were like, you can't have this book in school, and you can't read this, and it's banned in all these states.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, they got real Marilyn Manson about the whole thing, where they were like, these books will corrupt our good children. And it's like, well, no, your kid just might be an ass. Like, I don't think that scary storybook or that Marilyn Manson, cassette is going to do it. But okay, like, yeah. But those books now, I mean, it's like so cool now that, these, kids, because I have teenage sisters. They're much younger than me. I'm 33. And, I feel like anymore, you can be the weird kid. Like, the world is your oyster, oddball. I'm jealous. I feel like we paved the way of having no friends. So these youngsters could be, kind of hip and with it for liking, ghosty things, or, whatever Marvel universe they're into, or comic books, or, what have you. So, I think that we're headed in the right direction.
By far. And I think you said it right. We definitely paved the way, because everything that we thought was weird, macabre, nerdy, this, that, and the other now is like the norm, pretty much.
Pretty tame. Yeah.
Right. And, especially horror movies. I remember one part of your podcast where you were saying that you were like sneaking off to watch these movies and because of the family you grew up with. Luckily, I had a dad that he was just like, whatever. Like, I've been watching Friday the 13th movies since I was like 4. So, I grew up watching Tales from the Crypt, watching Creepshow, one of my favorites. And, they used to scare the bejesus out of me. And I especially love the fact, too, because I kind of just want to segue just a little bit from what we would normally talk about. But I liked how you talked about the first season of Haunting of Hill House and how you had to take a break and watch The Office and Parks and Rec. And so, I mean, those are two of my favorite shows of all time. So do you have, just out of curiosity, because we have this ongoing debate discussion, like which show is better. Do you have one like better than the other, or do you just love them both?
Okay, so I got into Parks and Rec because I had, like many people, binged The Office as like a comfort show for years. I mean, it started in like high school, and then I binged it through college, and I would skip classes to sit and watch it if I was anxious. And then finally one day, someone that knew me, that knew I would just watch it over and over, was like, have you ever heard of Parks and Rec? Because it's similar but different, and you need to like get off this Office thing. So that's how it started. You know, I love Parks and Rec, but I'm always going to be an Office girl. For sure. There are a couple bumps in the road that I was like, okay, like land the plane already. You're jumping the shark. Yeah. But for the most part, I'm Office. Are you Office or are you Parks and Rec?
So we actually did a 2-part episode. It was so long of an episode, I broke it into 2 parts. And it's literally The Office versus Parks and Rec. So I brought in Matthew, Natalie Garcia, a good friend of ours from Yes Weekly here in town, our good friend John, photographer, like all fans of really both shows. Natalie's the only one that really wasn't into Parks and Rec. And by the end of it, it came to me as far as the deciding factor on which one is better. I love them both. Love them both. And it's funny too, because my daughter is the one that actually got me into Parks and Rec. But she did not like The Office. So I got her into The Office. So it was kind of a trade-off. And I gotta say, I go through my moments, and I think it's just when I get wrapped up, depending on which one I'm watching, that's the one that's my favorite at that point. But
that's fair.
And I gotta say, just because supporting cast alone, if it literally came down like gun to my head, which one is your favorite? I had to go with Parks and Rec, just because there's so many other side characters that also make that show so great, where the Office characters are fantastic. But, you know, with Parks and Rec, we get to see, obviously, a whole entire city. You got, you know, these side characters like Lil Sebastian, who has like 2 episodes, and he's like one of the most beloved characters of all time. John Ralphio and Mona Lisa.
They're my favorite.
Yeah. Oh God, love them. And that's to me what sets apart. They're both still freaking phenomenal shows. Yes. But if, like I said, gun to my head, I got to go Parks and Rec. But that's until I start watching The Office again, and then I'll say The Office.
I can't even get mad because like you're comparing 2 things that I watch daily. So I'm like, yep, either way, I see. Yeah. And you get great cameos in Parks and Rec. Absolutely. And you go, oh my God, like, yes, I didn't get out of here now. Yeah, I love it.
Exactly. I mean, it's like comparing pizza to spaghetti. They're both delicious. You know?
Totally. I'm taking them both. Why not both?
Right. If I could have both, I will definitely take both.
At the same time, like one on top of the other. Like I'm fine with that. Like roll it up and it's fine.
Right. So, and on your first episode, and if you don't mind just kind of recapping real quick, because I would love to tell you my first kind of encounter with
I love that.
the paranormal. But for, you know, our fans of the show, again, please make sure you check her out. Your Best Ghoul on all podcast platforms. You go into your story on when you were living with your mom in Texas. If you don't mind, just for our listeners real quick, just give them a little feedback on how that happened, and then we'll go from there.
So my, you know, like I mentioned earlier, parents are divorced, and initially I lived with my mom in a super small town in Central Texas, like 4,000 people or less, crazy small, you know, where you have a house and you've got yard, all 4 directions, just into nothingness. And one night I woke up and I went and looked out of a window, and I know I was awake because I went to the bathroom, got water, was like kind of milling around, and I looked out of the window that overlooked our front lawn, and there was this, like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like a glowing humanoid figure. Like you could make out like a head and shoulders, and like it was kind of like a bluish glowing thing. And the street was really lit up, like for a rural, like little country road. Like it did have a couple of lamps. So, you know, I could tell that it wasn't like a reflection coming from somewhere else, because the yard was pretty lit up. Yeah. And yet there was this bluish light humanoid thing. And I watched it for, it felt like a few minutes. And then I, hauled ass like back to my mom's room. And, I told my mom about it. My mom is very, she's I think she just, believed her kid and was like, yeah, no, I've had weird experiences. Like the house is a very old house and, doors would open and cabinets would open. So she was very, she didn't write it off at all. And I've actually, I sent that episode to her, that first episode, and didn't really tell her anything about it. Just like, hey, listen to this thing I'm doing. And she's like, what's a podcast? What's Spotify? And I'm like, yeah, listen to it.
What time does it come on?
Jesus Christ, exactly. But she remembered. She called me and was like, I remember that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I totally remember that. Have you ever seen it since? I was like, I haven't seen that particular thing since. And she's like, I remember that like clear as day. Totally. So yeah, I don't know what it was, but again, super, super country, little bitty town, really old. It could have been anything. Could have been UFO for all I know at this point, but in my head, I'm like ghost.
Right.
And it's a ghost.
And especially, I don't know if you did, but I grew up watching Unsolved Mysteries. So everything scared the shit out of me.
Every night.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, we're still that family. We could live in the safest neighborhood on the planet. Doors are all locked, windows locked, shades closed. That's just inherent in our entire family growing up watching horror movies, Creep Show. Tales from the Crypt was a staple in our household. So everything scared the shit out of us. I was like, once it turns dark, I trust nothing.
Bye. Yeah. Nope.
So my story is a little interesting. So I know you and I are pub people / bartenders. So this was when I was just kind of getting into the bartending game. I was about 21, 22 years old at the time. And, I was doing like what bartenders do after work. You go to another employee's house, have a couple drinks, go to bed.
Right.
So I was living in this apartment complex and woke up middle of the night, kind of just turned around. And at the time I had a big, like old school kind of projection, big screen TV, not like the flat screens you see today.
Right.
And I look over and it looks like it's this kid sitting Indian style watching the TV, and there's this like father figure, father figure standing over him. At that point, I just
a twofer.
Yeah, a twofer ghosts. And I literally, I was so smashed at the time. I just chalked it up to me being drunk. I didn't think anything about it. So so let's fast forward 2 months later. I'm seeing a girl. We go out to breakfast. And again, I have not mentioned this to anyone because, like I said, I thought this was a figment of my imagination. I'm like, why would I ever even bring this up?
Drunken stupor.
Right. Yeah, I was just drunk. It is what it is. We're out to breakfast, and she's sitting there, and I could tell she's a little perplexed. And I'm like, what's up? And she goes, have you ever like woken up in the middle of the night and seen like a kid sitting Indian style with like someone standing over him watching your big screen? And I literally dropped my fork and I was like, yes. And I thought I was hammered when I saw that. Needless to say, I mean, that wasn't the main reason I moved out like a month later, but that was a huge factor. But it was just so weird that something I've never mentioned to anyone at all whatsoever. And for her to say that, I'm like, oh my God, that was a real thing.
Yeah, it was real.
So it still gives me chills.
I had something like that too, where I witnessed her. It was like an auditory situation where I lived in this house in high school that dated to the Civil War. And I would hear things in the cellar, hear things, never told anybody. And then I had a friend over one day. We were picking up stuff to go to the pool. And she was like, shh, you hear that? And I was like, oh no. And she heard it too, that this voice is coming from the basement. And that was a million years ago. And I reached out to her probably a year ago. And I was like, did I imagine that happened? She's like, oh no, I remember that. Like that. So when you get that like secondhand confirmation, you're like, okay, like I'm not hallucinating unless we're both hallucinating and there's like a carbon monoxide leak that we need to address. But like, otherwise, like I'm not tripping here. And I don't know if that's better or worse. Like, it's like, would you rather it be, that you were imagining it and there's nothing happening in your house other than like, you and some cats or whatever, or like, is it better that you got confirmation that you weren't, hallucinating? And that, because then it goes into like, okay, well, you heard it, I heard it, you saw it, I saw it. So what the hell is it?
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel. I believe people. I don't I don't really see a whole lot of incentive for people to make these things up. But there's not a lot of money to be made making this up, and there's a whole lot to lose in terms of people thinking you're a pariah weirdo.
Right.
So I believe people. If you say you saw something or you heard something or your cat, your dead cat reappeared, like I believe you, because why would you lie about it?
Right.
Like, especially when you get like you someone else who witnessed it too.
Right. Right. And that's my thing. Cause just like you, I definitely don't believe we're not alone in this world, let alone this planet, whether if it's first of all, to talk about UFOs, the galaxy is just too massive for us to think that we're the only ones like in the Milky Way, let alone where we are at. And
there's not a chance.
Yeah, at all. And, to talk about the UFO side of it, I was born in Puerto Rico. And there's always been this gigantic theory that, underneath Puerto Rico is this weird kind of like UFO base because there's an actual strip of highway in Puerto Rico that's called UFO Highway. Like there's a picture of UFO. Oh, yeah. And that's where like a ton of sightings have been seen. And we also have the biggest satellite in the world, like built into the mountain. Like it's not like a separate satellite that just sticks up. Like it's literally built into the mountain. And I'm like, why were we so blessed? Right. Why were we so blessed with the world's biggest satellite? And we also have a ton of sightings for UFOs.
Get out of town. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been in a few movies. Recently, I don't know if you've seen The Losers, which I'm a big fan of. Oh, my gosh. He plays Negan on Walking Dead. He's one of the 3 named guys.
I don't remember. My husband loves Walking Dead, and I've watched it a good amount, but I don't know the name. So I know who Negan is. I know who that is. Yeah, not the actor.
And he was in Supernatural too. He's the dad in Supernatural. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. But anyways, this movie, The Losers, based on a comic book. That was the last time I actually saw it in a movie. They have one scene where they're there at the satellite and just kind of walking around. But yeah, if you look it up, it's the biggest satellite in the world, and it's literally built into a mountain in Puerto Rico. So I think it's interesting that we have the rumors, and then we also have UFO Highway, which is, the most sightings. I believe it's like south of the U.S. ever. So I don't know. I might be part alien. I don't know. I'm 100%
That's crazy. Now, have you seen a UFO yourself?
I don't think I have. I mean, there's been times, and I was really enjoying your story about the ones that were in like, I think you said it was like 800-mile radius of each other in New Mexico, I believe, in your podcast. And, I don't think I've ever personally seen one. I wouldn't be surprised if I have, but the government always has a great way of being like, well, it's just this, or, it's just a blimp that hasn't been like full, like all the way lit up. But I definitely do believe in extraterrestrials and UFOs.
Well, they keep like slowly releasing things in the middle of like election melee and Capitol melee and other melee. You'll see this article slide through about, NASA says this, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, give me more than one article on that, and then there's never, follow up article. And my husband thinks that he believes in them too. That's kind of how he and I, got to liking each other, was watching UFO stuff on YouTube together. And he's like, I think they're priming us. I think they give people just a little bit to like desensitize them to the idea, and then one day it's going to be like, bam, like we have a peace agreement with Mars, and there's Martians, and and people, and then hopefully we've just seen so much between 2020 and 2021 that people are like, oh, okay. Like, right.
Yeah. I literally think 2020 is just gearing us to the point to where we're so numb to everything. It's just going to be like where that one scene in Signs where you see the alien walk by and you're so freaked out. Like now if that happens, you're just like,
would not faze me. Would not faze me in the slightest.
Yep. The only thing that still phases me, and this is just because I grew up such a horror movie fan, especially a fan of zombie movies, is anytime I hear more than especially sirens for more than 5 minutes, I'm like, this is it. This is how it starts. Pack your bags. Let's get ready to go. Yep.
So funny you mentioned. So our little burb, I don't know what the situation is, but weekly some kind of, and it might be tornado sirens. But they test them about once a week, and they sound like the purge sirens, and they go for like 15 minutes. And I remember because I lived here like in this particular area like 7 years. I remember the first time I heard it, I froze, and I was like, "Oh, here we go! Like something's about to happen, and it's not a good thing. But now it's just I'm desensitized to it. So like zombies could start rolling down the block, and I've just heard the siren so many times. I don't think that I would even break from like shoveling salt and vinegar chips in my mouth. I'd be like, turn the volume up. It's the siren. It'll pass. Wouldn't even faze me.
It's true. It's true. So, you and I are both aficionados of adult beverages. I love how you bring up every show that you're drinking something, especially because of the anxiety. I still have anxiety over every episode, just about literally every walk of life. So I'm drinking the Coors Banquet because we did a Cobra Kai episode. What is your beverage of choice that you're drinking right now?
So right now I'm doing the Cats, the Real Ale Coffee Porter. I keep hitting this one up lately. I'm just waiting for our local grocer to run out of it. I buy it up every time. And I think this is the last time they're going to have it for me. And then they keep having it. But yeah, I love Coors. When I first started bartending, was in this super, super small town in Pennsylvania where I went to college. And the bar that opened was the first bar since the Prohibition. Like there had been no bar in that town since the Prohibition.
Wow. Okay.
It was a big deal when this bar opened, but we had like 5 beers and Coors Banquet. Original. Miller High Life was another one that we had. And like PBR, and that was it. And Schlitz.
Okay.
Schlitz.
Okay. Where is this town at, if you don't mind me asking? Because I have a friend that got married in Altoona.
Put him on the map. It's Grove City, Pennsylvania.
Okay. And is that closer to Pittsburgh or Philadelphia?
Yes. It's like 40 miles from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm probably someone's going to correct, or 20 people are going to correct me from my high school tonight. It's close to on the Pittsburgh side of things. So Western Pennsylvania.
All right. And,
that beer selection was not good. I was happy when I got down here in a pub with like a bunch of beer, like lots of beers. Guinness wasn't the only stout. I'm a stout girl.
Okay.
So I got pretty bored with Guinness pretty quick. I was like, this 3% is just not doing it for me. It's great if you need to put away like 7 of them by the pool and still like study later. Right. But otherwise, I need a little bit more.
Understandable. Excellent. So my next question is, as far as, and am I saying this correctly, cryptids, correct?
Cryptids, yeah, you got
cryptids. It. Now, is there like a particular favorite that you have?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Bigfoot is maybe every cryptid person's favorite because there's just a lot more. There's more documentaries on it. There's more shows on it. There's more footage. There's more sightings. But my favorite cryptid is the Dog Man, Beast of Bray Road. But basically, what it is it's a werewolf. It's people saying they've seen a humanoid dog, and again I know for a fact that goes back to me thinking about those stories of my dad. So werewolves have always been my favorite. So when I found out that there's like a werewolf-esque cryptid, I was like, that's my cryptid. Do I think it's real? I don't know. It's hard for me. That one's it's easier for me to believe there's like an ape that's been hiding in like the woods than it is for me to believe there's like a werewolf. But again, I'm not going to discount anybody's sightings. I would love it if that were the case. Like I like ginger snaps and like dog soldiers and stuff like that. But yeah, for sure, my favorite's going to be any kind of werewolf, a dog man variation. That's my go-to cryptid. The water ones scare me too much. I get in the water and I start thinking about can't.
Yeah.
Too scary.
I mean, between the real stuff that's out there and then the stuff that might not even exist, I'm good.
You're not kidding. Yeah. You're not kidding. Well, you said you were born in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gone back and gone swimming at some point. That's like oceans in these little lakes in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
You got sharks, barracudas.
I remember one time we were out on my uncle's jet ski having a good old time. And I just looked down and, the water around Puerto Rico is just beautiful, just clear as day. And I just remember looking down and just seeing schools of jellyfish. And I was like, nope, I'm going to go back to land. I'm good. Then, of course, chupacabra is like a huge one when it comes to Puerto Rico as far as cryptids. So that was a massive one.
That was the original one that actually scared me.
Right.
Were the Chupacabra Unsolved Mysteries so scary. And they did a number of them in that like 90s time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Chupacabra is very scary. I did not know that was your home cryptid.
Oh yeah,
that's quite the cryptid.
I don't want to say that we claim that, but that was a big story in Puerto Rico as well. So yeah, like I said, a lot of weird stuff going on in Puerto Rico. So there's no telling. We need to come back and do another episode on all like the like paranormal UFOs, everything Puerto Rico. So like I said, I love the New York episode, and I know you went to Jamestown, New York. So we have Jamestown, North Carolina. Our big kind of claim to fame for Jamestown is the girl by the bridge. That kind of modern story of when it's raining outside, you see this girl kind of hitchhiking. She gets in the back seat, and then all of a sudden she's not there anymore. So, and then we do the ghost tours as well. So North Carolina has a few of those, and I'd love to reconnect with you on that. And there's downtown Greensboro for the longest time was a dead zone. As far as just no business, no people walking around. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, it really started to build itself back up. But a lot of those buildings down there have their claim to fame, a lot of them being old brothels that got converted into bars and restaurants. So there's a lot of, there's one, it used to be called the Green Borough, and they still have the sign up, and you have to go up this ridiculous flight of steps, which to me, I was like, and this is the biggest like hazard risk ever. Especially when you've been drinking, but there's a sign that says leave your key at the door. And it's the original sign from the brothel for leaving your key at the door. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
That's why there's a million reasons that I hope that we can start to, vaccines are coming out and everything. Like hopefully, we can get back to some normal things, but selfishly, I'm talking to my husband. I'm like, I really want to start doing the ghost tours and like, let's make that our family vacations, because I don't really care for flying a whole lot, but I will drive anywhere in the country and let's go check some haunted stuff out, because I really like to incorporate that into my talk to you a little bit about getting YouTube up and going. I'd love to have a part of my podcast be video and, going to, creepy or purportedly, haunted places or even just historical places and talking to the staff and your proprietors of those. I think haunted, especially you're up north. I'm so jealous. We talked about this the other night. I was saying to my husband, all the cool histories up north, all of it. It's haunted as shit up north. Like it's amazing. Yep. I'm so jealous.
Yep. Did you end up seeing, I think they showed this maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. There was some couple like traveling through Gettysburg, and on video, like they caught, like it looked like it was 2 soldiers like running after each other as they were just doing like a nighttime tour of Gettysburg. I can't remember. I saw it on Facebook, but I'll tell you what, if it was photoshopped, whoever did it did a fantastic job, because you can only see it for like maybe a second or two, but it's just like, holy shit. And I think I
believe it completely. Gettysburg is so haunted. It's so well documented. And even the house I lived in Pennsylvania, that was a Civil War house, like I said, I think there were like 4 confirmed deaths on the property, not related to the war, just related to like people passing away. Any of the Civil War stuff, anytime I hear I was at a Civil War ground and I saw something, I heard something, I felt something, I saw orbs, I'm like, I completely believe you. How can an area with that much trauma, embedded in it, how can it not be haunted?
Exactly.
I don't think so. It's possible.
Exactly.
It has to be haunted.
And anytime you, Joe, Jupiter, and Dolly want to come up here, let us know. You got a free place to stay with my girlfriend and I.
Oh.
So, because there's like literally when I first moved here, our main stretch of road is called Battleground Ave. So this was one of the, like a big battle, like literally a big battleground area. So you have like the park, again, like the old kind of mansions and this, that, and the other. And then they normally did the ghost tours. I think they still do them, but obviously socially distanced because of COVID and stuff like that.
Right.
So there's a lot around here that would be great. And, you got free room and board. So let us know.
I'm so envious. We were talking the other night, looking at houses back up north, in Pennsylvania and Ohio, Virginia, just kind of like up there. And I mean, he's like, he's from the Philippines. So my husband's from the Philippines, but he's lived in this suburb of DFW for, a long time, a couple stints in Taiwan. They've moved around a little bit, but For the most part, like the houses here are very new. And we were looking at the houses back up north and he was like, these are like, we were like, they're old. And I was like, that's what there is. Like in other parts that aren't a suburb of a big, metropolis like Dallas, like the houses are old. You get these homes with amazing history and sometimes you get a ghost too. That's just part of it, man.
It's a part of the HOA.
Listen, that's a selling point for me at this point. I don't even think I'm scared anymore. That's a selling
friendly
point.
Or exactly.
Right.
I'm at the point now where I'm just like,
we'll make it work.
Exactly. Because
if they want to throw down on the utilities and throw down on my Hulu and my HBO, right. We can work it out.
There you go. Yeah, you can't stay here.
Don't break my shit.
You're gonna have to work. And I mean, especially up north too, because I realized when I first moved down here in North Carolina, like up north, basements are a staple in just about every household. And it's weird, like the further south you get, the more you don't see basements. And basements were, especially with me and my sisters growing up, we always ended up living in wherever house our parents put us at, like with the creepiest basements ever, to where it's like, all right, this is time to go upstairs. So
you run up the stairs.
Yeah. I'd love to try.
Especially the stairs with the slats in them, where a hand could like reach through the slat. That's what we had. Oh
God! Don't get us started on people under the stairs. But yes, 100%. I think it finally took me to the age of 25 to like not have to like make a 40-foot jump from my bed to go to the bathroom at night. And even now,
I still prefer woman. I still under the bed stories. I don't know. I mean, I sound like such an old lady. I only discovered Reddit like 6 months ago, and I'll be like, "Are you on Reddit?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, everyone's on Reddit." But I read like the creepy stories on the no sleep Reddit. Yeah. And I was sitting on the floor in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep, and my family had taken over the bed, so I was sitting on the floor on my phone by the bed reading this no sleep on Reddit. And the end of the story was basically, Cliff Notes, the creepy thing was under the bed. And as I finished the story, I'm like glancing over at the dark bed I'm sitting next to. And I'll be honest with you, I let back up on it, like, scramble.
Yeah, my sisters and I would do the 40-yard dash up those stairs. My sister actually just commented. She says, "Hi, Janet." She was like, "Oh, yes, the creepy stairs." And that's always like a favorite family meme of ours to put anytime we talk about anything creepy or scary. Because even though we're all chicken shits, horror is just instilled in our family. The serial shows, everything else. It's what brings us together to where we can like laugh about it, but still be scared. So
I'm a masochist when it comes to that, for sure. I scare the hell out of myself, and I can't stop, and I won't stop.
Right.
But I do. I'm not like, because I have friends that are like, "Oh, I couldn't do like the creepy podcast because I can't watch horror movies. I get scared." I'm like, no, I get scared too. Like that Hill House on Netflix, I still have dreams about it. Hereditary, I still have dreams about it. The Witch, I still have dreams about it. Like I get scared for sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because I think this is going to be a great segue. We talked earlier during like our kind of pre-chat as far as my daughter and I, and like our especially her affinity for A24 films. Do you have like a top 3 when it comes to it? Because to me, I think that they're just next level when it comes to it. Like The Witch, to me, is really just a modern day take on like a folklore story. Then you have Hereditary, which takes it to obviously a whole nother level of just horror. And then you have also Midsummer, which is, to me, I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's a daytime nightmare. It's a nightmare daytime.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I skipped Midsummer and had to go read the synopsis before I even watched any videos, because I already knew what I was getting into with Hereditary. Okay. And that movie really, really scared. Again, I don't get scared. That movie really, really scared me on like 20 different levels. But the scariest part to me in Hereditary that I've had like recurrent dreams about, you remember in the very beginning of the movie in her craft room when she switches the lights off and Granny is standing in the corner?
Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me. Yeah. And after that, I was like, this is probably the scariest movie I've ever seen. So I know Midsummer, like I just went and read like every plot synopsis and watched clips. I have not sat and watched it all the way through because I know it's gonna be really freaking scary. So I know what happens. I know everything, but I haven't watched it because I'm chicken shit. Yeah, for sure. The Witch, though, I've watched it like 10 times. I love The Witch.
Yeah, a lot of people know that watch and listen to the show that we do let people know that we have spoilers.
Right.
The Witch I thought was just so clever. Everything about it, obviously the writing, the acting, everything else. But to me, what did it for me was at the very end when Black Phillip talks, and that was
amazing.
Oh my Lord. Because as it's building up, you're like, okay, all right, I get it. Like, all right, it's getting there. But that last like just minute and a half where Black Phillip's talking to the daughter, I was just like mind completely blown away.
Well, and what's so cool about that movie too, I think I think that, your obviously your background and your experiences like affect how you view a movie. I've mentioned in my podcast, my family's, more conservative and more religious. That's great. Like I don't have anything against that.
Yeah.
But that movie specifically would have been one that growing up, I'm certain I would have not been allowed to watch. And, I kind of related to her a little bit for certain parts of my life where it was just so strict and overbearing. By the end of the movie, I was like, good for you. I was like, good for her. Good for you. Like, go live deliciously, sis. Yes.
Yes,
queen. I was even mad. Yeah. Basically. I was like, you go. Get out of that crappy, damp, black mold filled farmhouse. Like, go float in the trees.
Yeah, and the guy, I can't think of his name, but the father, he was been in a couple roles before. I remember him being one of the Ironborn from Game of Thrones, and he just had that voice,
He's great.
Oh my goodness. And like if he could do like audiobooks, like whatever the hell, he could do a children's story, he could do whatever. I will listen to it.
I'd listen.
Strictly just because his voice, and A24 is just a well-oiled, independent machine right now. And that's what I love about it. They give directors free range to just be like, hey, listen, you're talented. Here's the money. Even if people don't completely figure it out, it's fine. Like I remember my daughter and I went to go see The Lighthouse. Great movie. Willem Dafoe kills
with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson. He's great. I didn't completely get it, but at the same time, I knew I was witnessing fantastic acting. And for a black and white film, it was shot very, very well too. So kudos to A24.
I think my husband might have watched it without me. I haven't seen it yet because he keeps saying we need to watch it. And I think sometimes he'll say we need to watch it, and then he just goes and watches it because I take too long to get to it. But that's one he's really been bringing up a lot is The Lighthouse. And I saw, I've seen a bunch of the trailers, and you can tell it's going to be really damn good. Even if it's weird and you don't really get it, it's going to be good. Like you will be entertained.
Exactly. You're going to be entertained. And I've been a big Willem Dafoe fan for damn near as long as I've been alive. And he's got a monologue.
He's a gem.
Oh gosh. And he's got it, I would say easily a 3 to 4 minute monologue where you could tell they didn't cut. Like it was just action, and he goes into it, and it's probably some of the best acting I've ever seen in my entire life. So
I can't wait. I gotta watch that one. Yeah. I can't wait. We're trying to get through we just got a couple episodes into The Night Stalker.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask you about that. So that's perfect.
Yes. Yeah. So we, I know that one backward and forward is one of the, original ones I read about a billion years ago, but it's still different when you hear it from like the detectives and like psychologists and witnesses. It's totally different. But yeah, there's, stuff with kids in it. And that's kind of where like my husband will be like, not, the stuff with kids, I think since he became a dad, he's on his, so I might be finishing that one solo. We'll find out, but it's very good so far. I mean, it's pretty rough, but that's what I was told. I expected nothing less.
Yeah,
it was going to
I'll definitely check it out. I'm glad you said that too, because from what I hear, it is very graphic, and I'm just one of those like just show it to me. Let me judge for myself if I'm going to continue.
I'm the same way.
One of them, even though this is not a serial killer per se, but one of the ones that really intrigued me on Netflix, and I think it came out 2 years ago, was Don't Fuck with Cats, and all the stuff going through this dude's head, and oh my god, what a guy!
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
One of my hair clients told me about that one while I was doing her hair a couple years ago, and she's like, "You may not want to look at that. You might not like it." And I was like, I started it, and I said, this is like, yeah, this is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main thing that
Good
intrigued
ending
me
on that one,
was how, much the people that were trying to find him, and I saw the whole thing afterwards, like you need to hire Bodie moving and this other guy to be in the FBI, because goodness gracious, they sure as hell put in the work to find this dude. And I mean, I'm glad they did.
Did you watch, what's the one called? Patton Oswalt's wife, I'll Be Gone in the Dark. Is that what it's called on HBO?
I have not. That's the one on HBO, right?
Gotta see it.
Yeah?
You gotta see it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another one where regular people getting together to solve like a crazy, terrifying cold case. Yeah. If you like that kind of thing where there's like a whodunit, oh yeah, it's great. It's really good stuff. Really good stuff.
Awesome. I'll definitely be sure to check that out. Before we wrap up, obviously be sure to let the fans watching, and again, everybody watching us on the Facebook Live and that are going to be listening to this episode next week. Again, Nicolette, thank you so much for joining us. Like, where can they find you? Please talk about your store, because I love your online store. It's so dope. Like, I would love to have an online store as cool as yours, but please feel free to shamelessly plug everything about you, because I'm such a huge fan.
Well, there's not too much. So my Instagram, I have 2 Instagrams. My personal Instagram, but it's public, is at Nicolette Nori. And then my podcast Instagram is Your Best Ghoul, ghoulsbestfriend.com. If you want to submit a story, because I like to share people's ghost stories on my podcast. Link through all my Instagrams. My website is my Teespring. It's just a Teespring. Like, it's nothing fancy, but if you need some like horror themed or, spooky themed t-shirts and stuff, you can find it through there. And, all the proceeds from that go to improving the quality of my podcast, which, like I mentioned earlier, is currently recorded in a closet because I don't have a recording studio yet, but we'll get there. It'll be a funny footnote along the way of the podcast that I used to sit in a closet to lovingly record it. But yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm most active on the Instagrams though. So
hey, we all got to start somewhere. Believe me, this is not a fancy studio here. This is just a guest bedroom.
Are you kidding me? I've been checking it out the whole time. It's gorgeous.
No, we were fortunate enough to move into my buddy's place, and he had these 3 bookcases, and he goes, "Look, man, I don't want to move. I don't want to move these bookcases." I said, "Please don't." I was like, "I might not even rent this place from you if you do take these with you." So it's got all my nerdy pop culture stuff that I've just kind of built up through the years. And, I got a couple round LED lights, and then I did get the Rodecaster Pro. That was the one thing, courtesy of Andrew Newman, attorney at law, the best damn lawyer here in Greensboro, North Carolina. AttorneyNewman.com is the website. It was part of our sponsorship deal last year. And I could not be happier. So, but believe me, we've recorded everywhere. Not every episode that we have sounds fantastic. I can promise you that now.
Right.
We have some hits, just like everybody else, some misses, but we all got to start somewhere. And I think your quality is great. But I almost forgot.
Thank
so
you.
We got to do our little segment that we started on the show.
Yes.
Death is not an option. So our question for you is, so you can only pick one.
Okay.
Gun to your head, you got to pick one. Okay. Would you rather be possessed by a demon for, let's just say, 24 hours, or abducted by aliens for 24 hours?
Oh, I'm picking possessed for sure. Like, you guys want to deal with what all goes on in here in like a 24-hour span? Knock your freaking lights out, buddy. Every time I'm picking that. Because I think that when you're possessed, I mean, I'd have to check with like Catholic family. I think that you just check out mentally.
Sure.
So that sounds like a vacation.
Right. Plus not being probed by God knows what by aliens. So,
but just show up to work. Yeah, just show up to work possessed, Nicolette. Don't spit pea soup. Don't climb the walls backward. Just go to work.
Right. Make sure it doesn't do a full 180. I think you'll be all right and keep your job.
Not a problem. Probably do a better job than I do anyways, even with the head spin. It's fine. No brainer.
Awesome. Again, Nicolette, thank you so much. Be sure to check out her podcast again on all formats, Your Best Ghoul. We cannot thank you enough. We'll definitely have you back on.
Please, I would love that.
Awesome.
Yes.
We'll definitely have you back on. Be sure to check her out, subscribe, like, follow, and of course, be sure to check us out, Zero Dark Nerdy, on all social media formats, Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. Pop Culture Podcast is the website, courtesy of our good friends over at Zibster. That is Zibster. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah! Victory!
And anger management?
Fuck anger management.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
Hey, it's Michelle Beadle. That's right, the Michelle Beadle. You're welcome. You love talking about sports. I love talking about sports. You know the only thing cooler than talking about sports? Sports! And right now, all your favorite sports are on Sirius XM. I'm talking every NFL game, every game from the NBA, NHL, MLB, every NASCAR race, golf major conference college sports, and all the top games in the WNBA. If it gets your heart pumping, it's on Sirius XM. So start your free trial of Sirius XM today. Visit SiriusXM.com/believe.